Where exactly do fairies live? Are they hidden within the earth, dwelling in another dimension, or here with us in the natural areas of the earth? And if they live off world or in a different dimension, how do they get here? There are just so many questions. Let's see if we can piece some things together using some of the photos I've taken and make where the fairies live a little less of a mystery. I'm game. Are you? Before we can talk about where the fairies live, maybe we should ask how they get here. If they truly exist in another realm, off world, or just vibrating at a lighter frequency than we do, then they'd need some kind of doorway between their place and Earth. This photo might be showing one of these. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a leaf, but if you really look, you can see that the leaf seems to have a slit in it, and coming out of that slit is a head, complete with ear, eye, nose, and mouth. It is the same color as the slit leaf and has a similar shape as well, but there is obviously more of this being coming through, as we can also see a part of its neck. Perhaps this is how some of the fairies check out their surroundings before coming all the way through. So maybe the fairies who live elsewhere but want to visit Earth don't simply appear out of nowhere. Maybe they move through something. Doorways we don't notice, both natural and created, what we might call portals. Here is the first of 3 portals I have photographed without knowing it until examining the photos later. This one is a tiny arch among the leaves. It is as small as the leaves it sits on, and you could easily step on it and never know. The sunlight made it glow, but it's a different shade of green, which makes me think it is made of some kind of shiny reflective material. Its shape appears to be man-made, like one of those old stone arches in Greece or Italy. The difference is, this portal looks to be only about the size of an adult human's big toe. I believe this is a portal for some of the really tiny fairies I photograph, so they can either enter or leave Earth. Then there's this one, a little larger than the previous portal, ankle high maybe. It has the same curved shape as the previous arch, but the top has been covered in foliage to assist in hiding it. It looks to be foliage that has actually been planted on top of the arch, so this gives me the thought that there is a fairy who has the job of keeping it groomed. This archway seems to have a step up and a light inside, and if you look closely, you can see that the arch leg closest to us is made of stone laid like brick. To add to the wonder of this portal, there are 3 small stones stacked neatly with what looks like a bone or a stick shaped like a bone in front of the stones. It feels arranged, a sign to let the fairies know, hey, this is a crossing point. This third portal I'm sharing with you is tiny, like the first one, but as you can see, it has a small creature, similar to a dinosaur, coming through to our side. We can see this creature's head and 1 leg are already out, and that the rest of its body is still within the tree where this portal appeared. Noticing the details, there is no dark hole in the tree that the dinosaur is coming out of, so I don't feel that it was just sleeping inside the tree and coming out as I snapped the picture. What I see is that its body appears to be enclosed within the tree as though there is no opening, and if you look closely at the unpainted picture, you can see rippling rings, which means to me that this portal is actually liquid. I don't believe that these arches and openings are random at all, but in full disclosure, if I hadn't seen them from my own pictures with my own eyes, well, I'm certain you get it. Having 14 years of paranormal investigation experience, I am no stranger to orbs. However, in my opinion, all orbs are not dust, pollen, insects, or moisture. As you are about to see, there is a lot more to them than meets the eye. This first orb is bright blue, and if you look closely, you can see a fairy being inside of it. I feel as though this fairy is young, perhaps a student, and that he overheard the invitation I spoke out loud to the fairies to come and have their picture taken if they wished. Maybe bright blue is the color that young students must travel in when they visit Earth or any other planet, kind of like a driving permit here. Just guessing on this, but it's fun to speculate. The second orb is multicolored and doesn't seem to have anyone inside of it. This doesn't mean that it has no purpose. Similar to the first photo in the portal section of this video, where the fairy head was coming out of the leaf, this kind of orb could be a type of fairy scout to determine something about Earth. In other words, a fairy projects a bit of its consciousness, not unlike remote viewing, to determine if it is safe to actually visit the location it has chosen here. This last orb photo shows an orb with a purplish hue. Again, though I cannot prove it, I feel the colors indicate specific purposes. In this case, the fairy inside the orb appears older than the student in the blue orb we saw earlier. This fairy also appears very laid back and comfortable, so I'm thinking that purplish orbs may be a kind of tourist ride. They might also be a way for a fairy to explore an area safely and thoroughly before choosing to take up permanent residence or take a job here on Earth. I think it is safe to surmise that if there is an orb within a photograph, the fairy within it or the consciousness within it probably lives off-world or in another dimension. So, we've seen portals which allow fairies who live in other dimensions or off-world to travel to Earth, stepping right on the land when they arrive. These portals can also allow Earth-dwelling fairies to explore off-world or other dimensions as well. We've also seen orbs, which seem to be the way for the fairies to scout areas of Earth safely. These fairies could be from other dimensions or off-world, but they could also be from some distance away on Earth too, right? Maybe there is such a thing as an orb renting station, or perhaps all fairies learn at a young age to create orbs for just this kind of exploration purpose. Again, it's just fun to speculate. The point is, we've proven they have a means of travel, but do they also live here on Earth? Over the years, I have photographed tiny structures that look far too intentional to be random. Homes so small they could easily go unnoticed unless you go through photos the way I do. I'm sure there are larger homes too, as my photos have shown that fairies come in all shapes and sizes. But as you see in this first photo, tiny is an understatement. This one may look like just leaves and grass, but notice that it is the only cleared space in this field. There is definitely a structure in this clearing. It has shape, angles, and even what looks like a roof line. This one was strategically placed as it is perfectly camouflaged, and humans do not walk on this field. This next photo, from a distance, could easily be mistaken for mushrooms on a log. I can't say that I have ever seen a mushroom with a chimney, let alone two chimneys, which this structure does have. The chimney on the left even has an elbow. It's a double structure building on a fallen tree, and even has a small ladder which appears to be the only way for the tiny fairies who created it to reach it. This house is so perfectly balanced with its surroundings, with its green roof and mushroom-colored walls, that I believe most people wouldn't even notice them. The third house really can't be mistaken for anything else. It just looks complete, with a defined roof, doorway, and even shadowing that gives it depth. It's almost as though the materials are half physical, half energetic, built from leaves, light, and maybe just enough intention to anchor it here. It is so easily seen in the photo, now that we know it's there, but if you were out on the trail, you'd probably never see it with the naked eye. The last photo is similar to the previous one in that it appears to have been built from the same kind of materials. Interestingly, it also has an abandoned look about it, as though it is in desperate need of some TLC. Strange, as I've always had the impression that the fairies are ever so neat and tidy. It could, of course, be a vacation cabin that isn't used much, or perhaps the fairies had to vacate in a hurry due to danger of some sort. Being magical beings doesn't keep them totally safe, but it can't hurt either. These homes, and I have a good many more that I've taken over the years, in my opinion, show that fairies do inhabit the surface of the earth too. There may be some who live underground as well, but I can't speak to that as I've never been able to photograph down a dark hole. I have, however, taken photos where there is only a head sticking up from the ground, or they look like they are crawling out of a hole. Food for thought. We have seen a lot in this video, but I couldn't resist saving the best for last from each of these categories: portals, orbs, and earth homes. If you still have doubts that fairies exist or that some fairies live on earth, these last 3 photos will knock your socks off. At least they did mine. I'm still looking for those socks too. Oh, come on, that was a little funny. This first photo. Take a moment and look at how beautiful it is. You might consider this a lens flare, and that's okay, but I believe this is a portal, one that gives off a kind of electromagnetic charge when someone comes through. Perhaps that is what is causing the gorgeous colors. And someone is coming through. It looks like a young man wearing a helmet and carrying a backpack. We are actually witnessing a fairy portal in action, bringing a fairy to Earth. And the orb has an eye in it. Someone is watching this fairy coming through the portal. I wonder if this fairy is coming home or here just to visit. Next is one of my very favorite photos. As you can see, there is an orb in this photo, and there may be a fairy within it, but I can't tell for sure. So I'm going to say it is a fairy consciousness. What you may miss, unless you look really close, is the tree fairy, which I believe does reside here on Earth. The tree fairy is either sleeping or communicating with the orb. My guess is that they are communicating. Maybe the fairy consciousness is asking how this tree fairy likes living on Earth. And finally, there's this one. Hidden way back in the tall greenery, you can see what looks like 2 small red-roofed buildings side by side. It's one of the most structured and complete fairy dwellings I've ever photographed. Interestingly, if I hadn't lightened the photo when I was going through it, looking for fairies, I would never have seen these buildings as they sit so far back in the dark. But here they are. Beautiful, well-kept structures, certainly built by the fairies here on Earth for, yes, living in. So where exactly have we determined that fairies live? I'm going to definitely say that they live in other dimensions and off-world as shown by the portals and the orbs, and definitely here on Earth with us, possibly even underground. I'll let you know if I find a photo with proof of that. There could be more places, of course, that we don't know about, but this feels like a good start, don't you think? Well, that wraps up this FaerieQuest journey. I hope you enjoyed exploring these photos and possibilities as much as I did sharing them. If you'd like to keep exploring the fairy realm with me, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think these photos show. And who knows, your insight might just inspire the next video. Until next time, keep your heart open, your eyes curious, and your camera ready. You never know who might be waiting to be seen.